Hey guys, tonight we're not slipping into medieval castles or wandering through candlelit corridors. Tonight we're stepping outside of history itself, so far back that no one has yet carved a name, drawn a map, or even dreamed of a wheel. You open your eyes to the sound of the wind howling like some prehistoric instrument, low and endless. The air burns your throat as you breathe. Frost curls from your lips. It's the Ice Age, and the temperature has dropped to nearly 50 degrees Celsius. The sun is a pale coin trembling over the horizon, and your entire world is frozen into stillness. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me in the comments where you're listening from, and what time it is for you. I love seeing that little constellation of places and hours where these stories find you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lie in the darkness before dawn, inside a hut stitched together from mammoth hide and the bones of animals you don't yet have names for. The roof sags slightly under a crust of frost. Every exhale plumes white into the chill air, catching the faint orange shimmer of coals that refuse to die. You pull a fur around your shoulders. It's stiff with last night's breath, smelling faintly of smoke and grease, and listen. The world outside creaks. Ice expands and sighs, a sound so slow it feels alive. You shift closer to the hearth. Fire is a fickle god in this age. You remember how long it took to coax it into life last night. Sparks leaping from flint to dried moss, then the moss blackening and smoking before a flame finally caught. Now the ashes glow like old eyes. You poke them with a stick, whispering the little noises people make when they're trying to convince nature to cooperate. Outside, the wind lifts the snow in soft spirals. A mammoth calls somewhere far away, a bass note rolling through the white. You picture it, steaming and enormous shaggy hair crusted with rime, tusks glinting faintly in the weak sun. You're grateful for its distance. You're not ready to face that much life this early in the day. You step outside. The snow crunches with a dry, brittle sound that only happens when the air is too cold to remember water. The sky is a thin, metallic blue. You squint until tears freeze at the corners of your eyes. Historians still argue whether humans in this period had already mastered tailored clothing, or simply wrapped hides and hoped. But whatever the truth, you've got layers. Reindeer skin, sinew ties, a hood pulled tight enough to make every breath echo inside your skull. You look around. The landscape is pure contradiction, flat but endless, lifeless but humming with movement. A glacier squats on the horizon like an enormous frozen tide. Closer, the plain is dotted with snow dunes, each one shifting slightly as the wind sketches its slow calligraphy. Somewhere under your feet, roots and bones twist together in the frozen ground, a record of summers so distant they might as well be myths. The sun crawls higher. Your stomach growls, a deep reminder that history is mostly hunger. You kick at a buried bundle near the hut's entrance and pull free the last of last night's roast marrow bone. It's frozen solid, but a thin layer of fat still glistens where you cracked it open. You chew carefully, savoring the mineral taste. It's disgusting and delicious at the same time, like victory and desperation served together. You glance toward the faint shapes of your companions. A few mounds of hide and snow mark their shelters, smoke rising lazily through narrow holes. Somewhere, a child sneezes. The sound is small but defiant, proof that life still exists out here. You wave a mittened hand toward them. Nobody waves back, they're conserving energy. You head down toward the river. It's not really a river anymore, just a winding sheet of ice with black seams where the current still fights to stay alive. You kneel, press your hand to the surface, and feel the faint tremor beneath. You chip at it with a stone until you reach slush, then scoop up a handful and let it melt on your tongue. It tastes ancient. For a moment you let yourself imagine warmth, the smell of wet grass, the hum of insects. But your brain rejects it. It's been too long. Instead you listen to the slow breathing of the land, a rhythm that's older than language. A flock of giant birds passes overhead, massive, awkward silhouettes like prehistoric cranes. Their feathers catch the light and scatter snowflakes in their wake. You tilt your head to watch, neck prickling with awe. Historians still debate whether these creatures coexisted with humans for long, or if this memory is stitched together from bones and guesses. But here, in your mind, they exist perfectly. You walk back toward camp, boots crunching in rhythm. The cold has a way of simplifying things. It removes everything that isn't necessary. There's no gossip, no currency, no architecture, just survival and stories. And the stories matter because they keep you awake when the world wants to freeze you into silence. Back at the hut, the others are stirring. Someone is rubbing sticks together, another arranging stones to form a crude windbreak. The faint smell of smoke crawls back into the air. You huddle near it, feeling your fingers tingle as blood returns. The day will be long. The hunt is uncertain. But for now there is light, and where there's light, there's the illusion of warmth. You smile faintly, your lips cracking in the cold. You whisper to yourself that this is what endurance looks like. Not heroism, not bravery, just the stubborn decision to wake up one more time in a world that never asks you to. The wind is calmer now, though calm is a relative term when it's cold enough for your breath to crystallize midair. The horizon blurs between white snow and white sky. You step outside again and see your shelter as if for the first time, your strange little invention made of bones and hides, half art, half accident. A mammoth's rib curves over the entrance like the spine of a cathedral. The hides that drape over it are stiff with frost, their edges snapping in the wind like flags. You duck inside briefly to grab your tools, a flint blade, a wooden spear with a fire-hardened tip, and the heavy fur you use as a makeshift cloak. These are your entire inheritance, your house, your tools, your heat, your history. You run your thumb along the mammoth bone wall, feeling how smooth it's become from your constant touch. You wonder if, millennia from now, someone will find it and think you were a genius or a fool. The air smells of cold fat, old smoke, and a faint, sweet rot, the smell of survival. You push the hide flap aside and crawl into the open. The sun is awake now, a pale smear behind drifting cloud. The light turns every ice crystal into a mirror. It's beautiful and unbearable. You circle the structure, checking every seam and joint. Overnight, the wind has tried to steal parts of your roof. A corner flap has lifted, revealing a crack where the snow should have sealed it shut. You pull it down and weight it with a slab of frozen hide. There, not perfect, but nothing in this world is. You glance toward the horizon again. In the far distance, smoke rises from another camp. Friends or maybe rivals. Out here, even strangers are a comfort, because it means someone else is still fighting the same invisible war. Historians still argue whether Ice Age communities cooperated widely or kept to isolated clans. But standing in this silence, you understand why both could be true. There's safety in numbers and in solitude. You take a deep breath and listen. The ice beneath your boots groans softly. The earth never stops shifting. Not even now. Somewhere deep below, rivers of frozen time grind against stone. You imagine you can hear them, like the slow heartbeat of the planet. The hides rustle behind you. A companion emerges, her hair tangled, her cheeks raw with cold, eyes blinking against the brightness. She nods, pulling her own cloak tight. No words are needed. You've spent months together, and by now communication is mostly glances and gestures. A pointed chin means there's something moving over there. A raised hand means wait. A brief smile means we're still alive. She points to the horizon where the ice seems to dip slightly. A hunting ground. You nod back. The others will follow soon, but first the shelter needs tending. The bone lattice shifts with every storm, and you've learned that if one rib gives way, the whole structure sighs and collapses like a dying beast. You grab a length of sinew and begin tightening the knots, pulling until your arms ache. The hide roof crackles, Tiny crystals tumble down, landing on your sleeve and sparkling briefly before disappearing. For a moment you just stare, mesmerized by the way light behaves here. The Ice Age has its own version of beauty. Harsh, fleeting, quiet. You kneel to adjust the base of the wall, packing new snow into the gaps. It's a trick you learned by accident. Snow, when pressed hard enough, becomes as solid as stone. You patch the windward side until it feels airtight. The irony doesn't escape you. You're using frozen water to protect yourself from frozen air. Inside, the coals have died completely now. You'll need to make fire again before nightfall. But that's a problem for later. For now, there's work. You check the storage pit. It's nothing more than a hollow under a slab of stone lined with ice and straw. Inside your supplies a few bones, a strip of dried meat, and the strange luxury of a clump of moss for kindling. You take stock the way a king might count his coins. Slowly, reverently. Everything is precious when the world offers nothing for free. A small sound catches your attention. You freeze, muscles locking instinctively. It's a scratching noise, faint but distinct, from somewhere near the bone wall. You step closer, spear half raised. Then a movement, tiny, almost invisible. A mouse, its fur the same color as frost, darts between cracks. You exhale, laughing softly at your own tension. You watch it scurry away, leaving a delicate chain of footprints on the snow. Even here at the bottom edge of survival, life finds a way to nibble at the edges of your world. Your companion emerges again, this time carrying a bundle of sinew rope and a few flint shards. She gestures toward the horizon. Time to hunt. You glance back at your shelter one last time. It looks small and stubborn against the expanse, like a heartbeat refusing to stop. As you walk away, you can't help but think about the ingenuity it took to build such places. Historians still debate how early humans managed insulation. Did they dig partially underground, or did they lay a hide so thickly that the air itself became part of the structure? Maybe it doesn't matter. You're standing proof that it worked. The wind rises again, scattering fine snow across your footprints. You pull your hood tighter and keep walking. Every step creaks in the frozen crust, echoing faintly in the open plain. The shelter shrinks behind you until it's just a speck of bone and shadow, barely visible against the endless white. The world feels impossibly wide and unbearably empty. Yet you're not afraid. This emptiness is familiar, like a cold friend who always tells the truth. You breathe it in until your lungs sting, until you feel a kind of calm. Soon you'll reach the hunting ground, where survival and hunger meet. But for now you glance back one last time at your hut of bones, your fragile, beautiful defiance against the ice, and you whisper a silent promise to return before nightfall. You kneel beside the pit of blackened ash, cupping your hands around the dying embers. The world has decided that fire doesn't belong here. It's too wet, too cold, too cruel. But you, stubborn creature that you are, intend to prove otherwise. The air stings your lungs. Your fingers move stiffly, half numb, trying to remember warmth as if it were a skill that could be relearned. You reach into a pouch for the flint and ironstone, both worn smooth from months of scraping. One spark, that's all you need. A single bright miracle to catch on the tiny bundle of dried moss you've guarded like treasure. You strike. The sound is a soft tink, swallowed immediately by the cold. Another strike, then another. A faint orange glimmer leaps up, dances, dies. You whisper to it like it's a stubborn child. Come on, stay with me. The next strike sends a spark into the moss. You blow gently, your breath clouding around it. The ember flares for half a heartbeat, then catches. The relief is so overwhelming that you actually laugh. An odd, brittle sound that startles a nearby raven from its perch. The flame begins to feed, stretching, curling through the moss, licking upward as if hungry for everything in its path. You feed it shavings of wood, a bit of bone fat, a twist of dried grass. Slowly, the small circle of your world brightens from grey to gold. The warmth is barely real, more memory than sensation, but your face tingles in its glow. You hold out your hands, palms red and cracked, and think about how long your ancestors must have fought to learn this trick. Historians still argue when fire first became domesticated. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, maybe more, but as you sit here, coaxing life from rock and breath, it feels like the most sacred invention of all. You look up. The sky is a hard steel color now. Snow drifts sideways in the wind. The others will be gathering soon, drawn by the smell of smoke. Because where there's smoke, there's hope. And where there's hope, there might be breakfast. You take a stick of frozen meat from your pack. It's from last week's hunt. A sliver of bison, black and brittle. You place it near the flame and watch as the frost hisses away. The smell that rises is sharp and faintly sweet. You close your eyes for a moment, imagining roasted meals in some future you'll never see, pots, spices, fire that doesn't have to be begged for. The meat softens enough to chew. You tear off a piece and hand the rest to your companion, who appears silently beside you. She sits cross-legged, rubbing her hands together before accepting it. You both eat slowly, savoring the illusion of warmth spreading through your bodies. The fat sticks to your lips, leaves a sheen that glitters in the light. Too salty, she mutters, half to herself. You grin, but your face is so dry that it hurts to smile. A few others gather. A young man with frost on his eyelashes, two older hunters whose faces look carved from the same ice you're sitting on. They grunt greetings, squat beside the fire, and begin sharpening spears. The rhythmic scraping sound fills the air, mixing with the crackle of flames. No one talks much. There's nothing to waste breath on. Words freeze before they reach their listeners. Instead, you all communicate through movement. The toss of a stick, the gesture of pointing, the nod of shared understanding. This is teamwork reduced to its essence. Silent, efficient, almost beautiful. One of the men pulls out a pouch of animal fat, scoops a bit onto a stick, and lets it melt over the fire. The smell is overwhelming, oily and primal. Someone sighs audibly. You lick your lips without realizing it. Hunger is a constant companion, a background hum that never fades, only changes pitch. For a moment, everything feels almost normal. A circle of people, a small fire, food, shared silence. You could almost pretend this isn't the edge of the world. Then a gust of wind sweeps through camp. The fire sputters, nearly extinguished. Instinct takes over. You and the others shield it with your bodies, huddled like conspirators around a secret. Sparks leap up, burning tiny holes into your sleeves. You don't even flinch. The fire lives barely. You can breathe again. You glance toward the horizon. Grey upon grey, no sign of motion. Somewhere out there, mammoths wander in slow herds, each one a moving mountain of warmth and danger. The hunters exchange looks. The plan is unspoken but clear. Find the herd before the storm finds you. You pack what's left of the meat, scatter the ashes, and cover the fire with snow. The smoke fades quickly, absorbed into the endless white. When you stand, your knees crack loudly, as if the cold has seeped into your bones and decided to stay. You sling your spear over your shoulder, adjust the strap of your fur hood, and take the first step toward the open plain. The ground is slick under a layer of powdered frost, but you've learned to walk lightly, to balance each step like a conversation between your body and the earth. As you move, the wind catches your breath and turns it into a faint trail behind you. You realize, absurdly, that it's the closest thing you have to a signature proof that you were here, even if the world won't remember. A strange calm settles over you. Every sound, the crunch of snow, the creak of your clothing, the distant groan of the ice, is amplified, as if the landscape itself is listening. You know that by nightfall you'll either have food or become food. But for now, with the faint heat of the fire still clinging to your hands, you allow yourself one reckless thought that this day might be kind. You look at your small group, 6 silhouettes moving through the pale wilderness, and realize you are history in motion, even if no one will ever tell your story. You press forward, the fire's ghost still flickering in your chest. The world beyond the camp is a frozen ocean of silence. The snow stretches out in long, pale waves, each one sculpted by a wind so cold it doesn't howl. It hums, like something ancient singing through its teeth. You pull your furs tighter and follow the faint trail of animal prints that stitch their way across the white horizon. They are fresh, still sharp at the edges, unblurred by wind. That means you're close. You crouch to examine them. Wide, round, with a deep impression at the toe, bison maybe, or reindeer. The snow around the tracks glitters in the thin light. You reach out and touch it, feeling the indentation's depth. You can tell by the way the ice refreezes around the edges that the animal passed within the last few hours. In a world without clocks, snow is your timekeeper. Your companions fan out silently, each one moving with the caution of someone who has learned that energy is a currency you can't afford to waste. The young man with the frost-bitten eyelashes gestures toward a small rise in the distance. You nod. From there, you'll be able to see more of the tundra, if the air doesn't freeze your eyelids shut first. The climb isn't steep, but every step feels like it takes something from you. Your legs ache, your breath comes in short bursts, and the frost gathers on your eyelashes until the world becomes a halo of ice. You stop halfway up to rest, leaning on your spear, and look back. The camp is a faint memory now, a smudge of smoke and bone on the endless plain. It's strange how small a home looks once you leave it. When you reach the top, the land opens up in front of you. It's both magnificent and horrifying. The horizon goes on forever, a mirror of grey and white where sky and earth refuse to separate. In the far distance, you spot a faint ripple of movement. At first you think it's the wind carving patterns through the snow. Then you realize it's a herd. They move slowly, like a living continent, dozens, maybe hundreds of shaggy shapes trudging together, steam rising from their bodies in great clouds. Mammoths. The sound reaches you a moment later, a deep, rhythmic thunder like distant surf. Each step they take reverberates through the frozen ground. The others see them too. You can feel the shift in the air as the group's quiet turns into focus. Hunger sharpens everything. Historians still argue whether Ice Age hunters worked in small family units or large cooperative bands. But right now you don't care about theories. What matters is the rhythm, the silent choreography you've practiced again and again. 2 hunters will flank from the left, 2 from the right. The others will wait downwind. You and your closest companion will try to push the herd toward the ice cliff, where even giants can stumble. You move carefully down the rise, crouching low. The air is thick with that metallic scent that comes before a hunt, sweat, snow, and the faint promise of blood. You can feel your heartbeat echo in your ears. The spear feels heavier now, as if it knows what's coming. As you approach, the sound grows immense. You can hear the soft tearing noise of hooves breaking crusted snow, the wet snort of warm breath against cold air. The nearest mammoth turns its head slightly, an eye the size of a fist glancing your way. You freeze. The eye is old, older than any city, any language. You can see your reflection in it, tiny and absurd, a flicker of life daring to challenge the Ice Age itself. The animal rumbles, low and uncertain. The rest of the herd shifts, sensing tension. You raise your hand, one silent signal, and your group responds as one. You advance, slow and deliberate, fanning out into a crescent. The mammoths hesitate, for a heartbeat. The entire world holds still. Even the wind seems to pause. Then one of them trumpets loud and furious. The sound hits you like a physical force rattling your ribs. The herd begins to move, first a shuffle, then a thunder. The snow erupts around their feet. A storm of white kicked into the air. You run, not away but alongside, keeping low, steering the movement, guiding them toward the ice ridge. Your legs burn. The cold bites through every seam in your clothing. Your breath tears from your throat in ragged bursts, freezing instantly against your face. Every step feels like a question: is this worth dying for? The answer, of course, is yes. The ground dips suddenly. The lead mammoth stumbles, trumpeting again. The others hesitate, crowding behind it. This is your moment. You signal, and two hunters leap forward, thrusting spears. The tips strike hide, bounce off, strike again. The air fills with the sound of cracking wood, breaking ice, and something deeper, something like grief. The beast turns, bleeding. Furious, it charges. You dive sideways, snow exploding around you. You feel the tremor as it passes, so close that the ground vibrates beneath your chest. Your spear is gone, lost in the snow. For a second you're nothing but heartbeat and panic. Then you see your companion standing her ground a few paces away, spear ready. She waits for the right moment. The mammoth's stride falters. It slips on the frozen incline. Her spear finds its mark beneath the ribcage. The sound it makes is horrible and holy. The creature bellows once more, then sinks, slow and unwilling, to its knees. Steam pours from its body. The air fills with the smell of iron and life. The rest of the herd hesitates, then turns away, their great shadows fading into the whiteness. You stand there, panting, watching the steam rise and twist until it disappears into the frozen sky. Historians still argue whether these hunts were born of desperation or ceremony, whether our ancestors saw the mammoth as prey or deity. Standing here, shaking with exhaustion, you think it might have been both. You reach out and touch the animal's flank. It's still warm. Beneath your glove, you can feel the slow fading of its heartbeat, like a drum that kept time for the world and has finally gone silent. Snow begins to fall, soft and thick, covering blood, tracks, everything. Soon this moment will vanish, as if it never happened. But for now you stand beside the fallen giant, the air shimmering with heat and cold in equal measure, and you whisper something small and wordless, a thank you, or maybe an apology. The world smells of blood and snow. It's a combination so ancient it feels like part of your own breath. Steam rises from the fallen mammoth in slow, spiraling ghosts that twist away into the frozen wind. You and the others stand in silence for a long time, chests heaving, eyes wide, watching the final shudder of muscle under the thick hide. When the sound of its breathing stops, nobody cheers. You've learned that noise has no place here. Instead, you step forward, press your palm against the animal's side and bow your head. It's still faintly warm. The steam wets your fur and freezes there almost instantly. A hunter beside you murmurs something that might be a prayer, or maybe a reminder. You can't tell which, you only know the shape of it. Gratitude, apology, the strange reverence of taking life to preserve your own. Historians still argue whether Ice Age people had religion or ritual, but as your breath curls toward the sky, you know they had awe. You all move then, as if a silent signal passed between you. The work begins. The first task is to bleed the animal before the cold seals it shut. The oldest hunter takes a flint blade, honed to a cruel edge, and draws it across the hide near the chest. The sound it makes is thick, like leather tearing underwater. A river of warmth spills into the snow, carving a dark, smoking channel. The smell is metallic and sweet. You try not to think about it as hunger stirs behind your ribs. Someone fetches a bone bowl to catch the blood. Nothing is wasted. The fat will harden and be burned later. The liquid might freeze, but it can still be eaten as ice. You've learned to find nourishment in everything, even what once disgusted you. You move to the side of the mammoth and begin the slow work of cutting through the hide. The flint scrapes, the muscle resists. You shift your weight, pressing your boot into the creature's leg for leverage. Your hands are clumsy from the cold, but the rhythm carries you. Slice, pull, breathe. Slice, pull, breathe. The fur is dense, dark, coarse, full of frozen dirt. You peel it back in heavy folds, Beneath it, the skin gleams like polished copper. The cold keeps the body from stinking, but it's still visceral, raw. You work quietly, occasionally glancing at the others. No one speaks. Everyone knows their role. One of the younger hunters crouches near the tusk, tapping gently with a stone to loosen it from the socket. Each strike sends a dull vibration through the ground. He'll use it later for tools, maybe even decoration, though decoration feels like a strange word here. Nothing exists that isn't practical. You pause to catch your breath. Your fingers ache, your shoulders burn, and yet you feel a strange peace. There's no confusion in this work. It's life stripped to its simplest equation. You take, you live, you give back when the time comes. You look at the creature's eye, half frozen now, clouded with ice. For a moment you imagine it blinking, alive again, rising to crush you. You blink the thought away. It's only memory playing tricks. Still, you murmur a few words into the wind. Even the dead deserve company out here. A gust of snow sweeps across the plain, dusting the carcass in white. The world wastes no time in reclaiming what's fallen. Soon the smell will draw scavengers, wolves, maybe even lions if they roam this far north. You'll need to finish quickly. Your companion kneels beside you, carving strips of meat into long, flat ribbons. They'll freeze solid within minutes. Nature's preservation. The group stacks them carefully in a pile, then wraps them in hide. Some pieces will be carried back tonight. Others will be cached here, frozen in the snow until hunger demands another visit. Historians still debate how Ice Age hunters stored food before permanent dwellings. But watching the process now, it's clear the earth itself was their freezer. After hours of work, your breath coming out in ragged bursts, the mammoth is half dismantled, transformed from animal to resource. Its ribs arch like a ruined cathedral. The smell of blood has faded, replaced by something earthy, almost comforting. You wipe your hands on the fur at your knees and feel the sting as frost bites into the small cuts on your skin. The group pauses. One man starts a small fire near the body using a bundle of moss and fat. The flames flare weakly, dancing in the wind. You sit around it, teeth chattering, letting the heat wash over your face. Someone skewers a strip of meat and holds it over the fire. The grease drips, hissing into the coals. You watch, mesmerized. When the first piece is ready, it's passed around, still steaming. You take a bite. It's tough, smoky, and wonderful. The warmth spreads through you like slow sunlight. You close your eyes for a second, just breathing. It's strange how joy can hide inside something so small. The fire crackles. The wind murmurs. The snow glows faintly blue in the reflected light. For the first time all day, you allow yourself to feel human again. As the light begins to fade, you wrap what meat you can in hide, securing it with strips of sinew. You glance at the horizon. The clouds are thickening. Storm coming. You'll need to leave soon. But for now, there's still work to do. You tie the last knot, then look back at what remains of the mammoth. Its shadow stretches long across the snow. The ribs catch the last of the sunlight, glowing faintly like amber. You imagine future humans finding this skeleton someday and wondering who you were, why you carved it this way, why you burned these marks into the ice. Maybe they'll think it was ritual. Maybe they'll be right. The wind shifts again, colder now, sharper. It bites through your layers and reminds you that the day isn't over yet. You stand, stretch your aching back and shoulder your pack. Behind you the fire pops, sending one last spark into the dimming sky. Ahead, the long white plain waits, indifferent as ever. You take one final look at the fallen giant, then whisper to no one in particular, "Thank you," before turning toward home. The snow begins before you've even left the valley. It falls in lazy spirals at first, each flake drifting down as if the sky is undecided about letting it go. But within minutes the wind picks up and the flakes become horizontal, sheets of white cutting through the air. The horizon vanishes into blur. You pull your hood tight and lean into the wind. You are dragging a sled made from the ribs of the mammoth and strips of hide heavy with meat. The snow squeals under its runners. Every few steps you have to stop and adjust your grip, feeling the coarse rope bite into your palms through the fur. Around you the others move like ghosts, hoods down, faces hidden, silhouettes bending under the weight of survival. The mammoth's path is already gone. Within an hour the storm will erase all evidence of the hunt, sweeping your victory into memory. You keep walking anyway. That's how you beat the Ice Age. Not through conquest, but through persistence. Your boots sink into drifts so deep you sometimes stumble to your knees. Each time the cold climbs higher into your body, like it's trying to take root. When you exhale, your breath freezes into thin glass threads that catch in your fur collar. You no longer feel your nose. You no longer feel your fingers. The cold is not a temperature anymore. It's a presence, like a god you can't see but always feel watching. Your companion trudges beside you, muttering softly, half chant, half curse. Her voice is rough from breathing frost all day. She points toward a dark shape in the distance, a ridge of ice that looks like the spine of the world. That's your direction. You nod and keep moving. The wind changes again. Now it's howling. You can hear it whistle through the gaps in your clothing, through the holes in your sled, through the seams of your very thoughts. It's like the world is trying to peel you apart. You lower your head and push forward. The snow whips your face until you stop noticing the pain. At one point, the young hunter ahead of you slips and falls. He doesn't move at first. You drop the sled and lunge toward him, pulling at his shoulder. His face is pale, his eyelashes white with frost. His lips move slowly, forming words that never come. You slap his arm once, twice, until he groans. That sound, even weak, is a small victory. You help him up and wrap an arm around his shoulders. Together you start walking again. The group tightens, moving closer, forming a rough line. The storm screams around you but finds fewer gaps to slip through. You walk as one creature now, a slow, clumsy animal built from 8 bodies and a single goal: get home before the fire dies. Historians still argue whether Ice Age people had a concept of home, but you know it's not a place. It's whoever is still walking beside you. Hours pass in a blur. Time dissolves in the snow. You stop measuring distance and start measuring breaths. Each one burns in your throat like a promise you're afraid to break. The cold becomes internal, blooming from the inside out. You can feel it in your ribs, your teeth, the marrow of your bones. You imagine your skeleton glowing faintly blue beneath your skin. At last, through the storm, a flicker of color: orange, trembling, impossible. Fire. Someone ahead yells, or maybe it's the wind, but suddenly everyone moves faster. The flicker becomes a glow, then a shape, then salvation. The cluster of hide huts barely visible through the snow. You laugh, though it comes out more like a cough. The camp looks smaller than you remember. The roofs are sagging, their edges buried under drifts. Smoke curls lazily from one vent. A few figures stand outside, their outlines blurred by the storm. When they see you, they wave and hurry forward, their shouts lost in the wind. You stumble into the circle of warmth, like a shipwrecked sailor crawling onto shore. The fire is little more than a pile of coals, but it feels like sunlight. You drop the sled beside it and collapse. Chest heaving, frost steaming from your clothes. Someone presses a bowl of melted snow into your hands. You drink greedily, the liquid sharp and cold on your tongue. Your companion falls beside you, face grey but eyes alive. You both laugh without sound, the kind of laughter that's really just relief given shape. Around you, others unload the sleds, stacking the meat carefully. A few people begin to sing softly, a low rhythmic chant that sounds less like melody and more like heartbeat. You watch them move in the firelight, the orange glow turning their fur coats into halos of warmth. The air smells of smoke and blood and life. The sound of the storm fades outside, muffled by snow and distance. Someone tosses a strip of meat onto the coals. It sizzles, releasing a burst of aroma that cuts through the fatigue in your mind. You chew slowly when it's passed to you, the taste of fat and ash grounding you back into your body. You didn't realize how empty you were until now. One of the elders leans toward you, her face a map of old frostbite scars. "The storm will pass," she says simply. You nod. You don't need more words than that. You both know storms never really pass. They just move on long enough for you to catch your breath. You glance toward the entrance flap. The snow is piling high against it, sealing you in. But that's fine. You've brought warmth back to the camp. You've earned another day. The fire crackles, throwing shadows on the mammoth bones that arch above you like cathedral ribs. Outside, the blizzard rages, blind and endless. Inside, you close your eyes and let the crackle of fire drown out the wind. You imagine the storm as a great cold animal prowling outside your door, sniffing for weakness, then turning away when it smells smoke and human will. And as you drift into a half-sleep, muscles thawing one ache at a time, you realize that survival here isn't about strength at all. It's about patience. You don't conquer the cold, you outlast it. By morning, the storm has quieted, leaving the world wrapped in a heavy, muffled calm, the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. The snow outside has piled high against the shelter walls, sealing the huts in from the lower half like buried eggs. You sit up slowly, joints stiff, furs stiffened from the night's frost, and listen. The wind has stopped, but you can still hear it breathing faintly through the cracks, a ghost refusing to leave. You reach for your spear out of habit, though you don't need it inside. The fire is down to a bed of coals, faint orange veins glowing beneath the ash. You stir them with a stick until a small flame flickers back to life. It feels like coaxing the sun from its hiding place. One by one, the others stir awake. You see familiar faces by the dim light. The young hunter, his cheeks cracked and pink from windburn. Your companion, her eyes red but alert, and the elder woman already grinding dried berries into powder with a smooth stone. No one speaks yet. Mornings are sacred, not for prayer, but because they mean you've survived another night. The air inside the shelter smells of smoke, musk, and fat. A strange, comforting perfume. You pass around a small piece of frozen meat, softening it by the fire before gnawing at it. It tastes of ash and victory. You've eaten worse, much worse. Outside, light begins to filter through the ice roof, pale, cold, and delicate as glass. You crawl to the entrance and push at the snow, blocking it. It gives way easily, spilling into the hut in a soft cascade. When you climb out, the world is dazzling. The snow has reshaped everything overnight, even familiar landmarks. The ridge, the river, the bone fences look reborn under new drifts. You take a breath so deep it hurts, then exhale, watching your vapor curl into the endless air. The others emerge behind you, blinking against the glare. For a moment, all of you just stand there, stunned by the stillness. The Ice Age does this sometimes, punishes you one day, then gifts you silence the next. It's hard to know which is more dangerous. Your companion begins to laugh, a soft, disbelieving sound. She scoops a handful of fresh snow and presses it to her face, wincing at the sting. You grin. The world is beautiful in its cruelty, and somehow that makes you love it more. You gather everyone around the sleds. Today isn't for hunting or traveling. Today is for maintenance, for fixing tools, checking traps, and keeping morale from freezing. You unload what's left of the mammoth meat, now hard as stone, and divide it into equal piles. Nothing breeds tension faster than uneven food. Fairness is warmth. Everyone knows that. The young hunter begins sharpening bone points, using a flat rock and careful pressure. The elder woman hums softly as she twists sinew into cord. You and your companion take the hides and begin scraping the fat from their undersides with flint. The work is dull and rhythmic. Slice, scrape, fold, stretch, and the sound of it fills the cold air like a heartbeat. You've done this so many times that your mind drifts elsewhere. You think about the world beyond this valley, about others like you scattered across frozen continents, people you'll never meet, fires you'll never see. Somewhere, a family huddles under caribou skins near a glacier. Somewhere else, a man chips stone blades while his breath fogs the air. You are all connected by the same quiet endurance. Historians still debate whether early humans had a sense of unity, but you know they did, the kind that doesn't need words. By midday, the camp hums with quiet activity. Someone starts a small fire outside and drops a lump of frozen marrow into a bone pot to melt. The smell is faintly sweet, almost buttery. You sip from it when it's passed around, liquid warmth that seeps down your throat like sunlight in reverse. Then, a shout from one of the scouts breaks the rhythm. You look up, squinting into the distance. There, faint but clear, a trail of dark dots moving across the snow. Wolves, maybe 8, maybe more, weaving between the drifts. They're too far to threaten yet, but close enough to be a thought that won't leave your mind. You feel the mood in camp shift. The young hunter stops sharpening. The elder murmurs a few words that sound older than language itself. You nod silently and start moving the food stores closer to the huts. Wolves are clever. They'll test your defenses first, waiting for weakness or distraction. You've seen it before. You make sure the fires are strong. Wolves hate flame almost as much as they hate hunger. As dusk begins to fall, the light turns blue and the air sharpens again. You can hear them now, distant howls carried on the frozen wind. It's a lonely, intelligent sound, one that makes the hair on your neck rise. Your companion sits beside you near the fire, holding her spear upright. "They sit hungry," she says simply. You nod. So are we. The first wolf appears as a shadow at the edge of camp. You can barely make it out, just the gleam of eyes reflecting the firelight. Then another shape, and another. They circle wide, patient. You admire that patience, even as your heart pounds. Someone throws a burning branch toward them. It hisses into the snow, sputtering. The wolves retreat slightly, their eyes blinking out one by one like stars at dawn, but you know they'll be back before morning. The group tightens the hides around the shelters, sealing every gap. You pile more wood on the fire, listening to the hiss of sap and the crackle of burning bone. The glow spreads across the snow, pushing the dark back a few feet at a time. The air smells of fat and smoke and fear. Historians still argue whether early humans saw wolves as threats or potential partners, the first tentative bridge between species. But tonight you know exactly what they are. Mirrors. They're out there in the cold, just as desperate, just as clever, just as alive. You look beyond the firelight and think you see movement again. A grey shape slipping through the trees, then gone. The wind picks up, carrying another howl. You don't know if it's warning or conversation. Maybe both. You sit there a while longer, face burning from the heat on one side and freezing on the other, and wonder if survival ever really ends. Maybe it just changes shape. Mammoth one day, wolf the next, hunger forever. The fire pops loudly, snapping you out of your thoughts. You feed it another branch, watch the sparks rise, and decide that for tonight, this small circle of light is enough to keep the dark away. You don't need victory, you just need one more sunrise. The night is long, but the wolves never come closer. By dawn, the storm has returned, not as furious as before, but steady, relentless. The world beyond the firelight is once again erased, turned to a swirling white oblivion. When you step outside, snowflakes cling to your eyelashes and melt against the brief warmth of your skin before freezing again. The air feels alive, heavy with the breath of the planet. You and your companion stand quietly, faces turned upward. The sky is a dull silver sheet, no sun visible. Even the horizon has vanished. The world has no edges, and for a moment you feel dizzy, as though you're walking inside a cloud that has forgotten where it ends. Breakfast is quick, just frozen marrow scraped from a cracked bone, thawed slightly in your mouth before swallowing. No one complains. You've long since stopped expecting comfort. Warmth and food are moments, not guarantees. The real luxury now is motion. You gather your tools, spears, flint knives, ropes stiff with frost. You'll need to build new traps today. The last ones are buried beneath the drifts. You sling a pack of hides over your shoulder, feeling their weight drag you toward the earth. The others do the same, and together you set out across the plain once more. The wind blows against you in sharp, playful gusts. It steals your breath, pushes against your chest like a living thing trying to herd you backward. But you lean into it, head down, step by step. Your boots crunch through layers of ice, each one older than memory. You can feel the difference in the sound. Soft where snow is new, brittle where it hides ancient frost underneath. When you reach the trap fields, they're gone, buried. Only a few faint lines of twine peek through the snow. You kneel and brush the drifts away, uncovering the snare loops one by one. Most are empty, their bait long since frozen solid, but in one of them the snow is disturbed. A small mound quivers faintly. You reach out, and beneath your fingers you feel the twitch of something warm. You dig gently until you uncover a snow hare tangled in the sinew loop. Its fur is white as the ground beneath it, eyes wide with the same fear you've known all your life. It struggles weakly. You hesitate for a second, just one heartbeat of pity, then act quickly. A clean twist of the wrist, and it goes still. You exhale, letting the moment pass like smoke. Historians still argue whether our ancestors felt remorse for their kills, or whether survival numbed that part of them entirely. You decide the answer doesn't matter. Feeling sorry doesn't warm your hands. You hold the small body up, and your companion nods. It's barely enough for a meal, but still, it's life. You tuck it into your pack and move on, scanning the horizon for more signs of motion. The snow glows faintly under the dim light. Everything is too bright and too quiet. Even your thoughts sound loud inside your skull. You walk for hours without speaking. The cold has a way of making conversation feel unnecessary. The only sounds are the squeak of your boots and the distant cracking of ice somewhere unseen. Eventually you reach a ridge that overlooks a frozen river. The ice below is fractured, crisscrossed by veins of darker blue. You kneel and test it with your spear. It doesn't crack, but the echo it sends back feels uncertain. You wouldn't trust it with your life. You wouldn't trust anything here with your life. Still, the water beneath is a promise. You break through a thinner section with a rock, chip by chip, until a small hole appears. The air that rises from it smells ancient, wet and mineral and strangely clean. You lower a bone scoop, pull up a bit of slush, and set it aside to melt later. Water, even frozen, feels like wealth. The wind softens for a moment, and you look up, across the river. A small herd of reindeer grazes on buried moss, their antlers dusted with frost. They move slowly, heads down, snorting steam into the air. You freeze, both in awe and calculation. The herd is close enough to hunt, but the ice between you is treacherous. You glance at your companion. She meets your eyes and shakes her head. Not today. The risk is greater than the hunger. You nod. In the Ice Age, wisdom is often just knowing when to do nothing. You linger a little longer, watching the animals. They look impossibly calm, unaware of the storm you fought last night, or the wolves that still haunt the edge of your camp. You wonder if they envy you, or if you envy them. Probably both. You head back toward camp as the wind shifts again. The snow begins to fall thicker now, a quiet avalanche from above. Your footprints vanish almost immediately behind you, as though the earth itself refuses to remember your passing. You glance over your shoulder once, but the world is already blank again. When you finally return, the fire is burning stronger than before. The young hunter is mending a spear shaft. The elder woman is teaching a child how to twist sinew into thread. You set the hare beside the fire and start skinning it, your hands moving automatically. The small pelt peels away easily, soft as breath. You stretch it over a bone frame to dry. The meat sizzles when it touches the pan of heated stone. The smell is sharp and clean and almost cruel in how good it is. You eat quietly, savoring every bite. The fat coats your mouth. The protein wakes something ancient in your blood. You can feel warmth spreading from your stomach outward, reaching your frozen fingers like the faintest echo of summer. As night falls, you sit near the entrance of your hut, staring out at the endless white plain. The wind has quieted again, leaving only the soft hiss of falling snow. The fire crackles behind you, painting everything in gold. You realize that each day here is the same story retold in different words: wake, work, endure, sleep. And yet, somehow it never feels meaningless. The sameness itself is the miracle. You survive not because the world is kind, but because you have learned to be patient with its cruelty. You pull the hare's fur closer to the fire to dry it and whisper softly, "Tomorrow will be easier." It's a lie, but a necessary one. In a land where every truth hurts, lies can keep you warm. By morning, the world has gone quiet again, but it's a different kind of silence. Not peaceful, not empty, watchful. The air feels thick with intent, as if the land itself is listening. You step outside and see the faint traces of paw prints circling the outer huts, not the neat, deliberate tracks of foxes or hares. Bigger, heavier. The wolves came close last night, close enough to smell your breath through the hide walls. You crouch, brushing the snow away with your glove. The prints lead toward the frozen river, then disappear into a line of drifts that hide everything beyond. You exhale slowly, your breath hanging in the air like a warning flare. They're testing you. These ghosts in fur, they always do. You stand and scan the horizon. The sky is a dull iron color, the kind that promises another storm. You know you'll need to move soon. Fresh snow will bury the trail completely, and if the wolves are desperate, they'll follow it backward to find you. You can't afford to be here when they do. Your companion steps out beside you, pulling her hood tight. "They were close," she says. You nod. No need to elaborate. Her eyes flick toward the horizon and then back to the huts. You both know the rule. Eat, pack, leave before nightfall. The rest of the group moves quickly when they hear. There's no panic, just that same practiced urgency born of repetition. You've done this before. Everyone has. The Ice Age doesn't allow routes. It only allows motion. Staying too long in one place is how you freeze or starve or become someone else's meal. While others pack meat and tools, you begin the grim work of dismantling the camp. The shelters collapse easily when you pull free the bone supports. The hides, though stiff, fold neatly when warmed near the fire. You brush the ash aside to scatter your tracks. Even now, you're careful to leave no sign that humans ever lived here. The snow will finish the job soon enough. Historians still argue whether this constant movement shaped human psychology, whether the restlessness of our species began here, in the cold. You can't answer that, but you do know this. Stopping feels wrong. Movement is safety. Stillness is death. When the sleds are loaded and the fire smothered, you take one last look around. The place already looks abandoned. No smoke, no voices, just wind and snow. Within an hour, it will be as if you never existed. You shoulder your spear and start walking. The snow squeaks beneath your boots in slow rhythm, the sound oddly comforting. The sky darkens, not from night, but from more weather rolling in. A curtain of grey moving low and fast across the plain. You can smell it before it arrives, that metallic tang of storm air. You pull your fur tighter, press your face into the collar. The landscape shifts gradually. As you travel, low hills rise and fall like frozen waves. In the distance, you spot a line of dark trees, rare and twisted things. Survivors of a warmer world, you angle toward them. Even a few branches could mean new firewood, and that's worth the detour. As you approach, the trees emerge from the fog of snow like a memory resurfacing. Their trunks are black, bark peeling in curling ribbons. Between them, the ground is uneven, dotted with bones, animal, maybe human, half buried in the drifts. You step carefully. The sound here is different. The snow doesn't crunch, it sighs. You stop at one of the trees, touch its bark. It feels brittle, almost glassy. You break off a limb. It cracks cleanly, echoing across the clearing. The sound startles a bird from somewhere above. It bursts into the air in a flurry of white feathers. You laugh softly. The first bird you've seen in weeks. Life still remembers how to fly, even here. You gather a few more branches and lash them to the sled. Your companion kneels nearby, brushing snow away from a low mound. "Look," she whispers. Beneath the crust, the edge of a skull, small, delicate, human. She stares for a moment, then covers it again without a word. No one comments. The Ice Age keeps its own cemeteries. As the day wanes, the light begins to blur again, turning gold, then grey, then blue. You walk until your legs feel carved from the same ice you're trudging through. Finally, you find a sheltered hollow, a place where windbreaks of snow and stone curl together like protective arms. This will do. The group begins unpacking wordlessly, falling into rhythm. Some build the fire, some set up the hides, some chip holes in the snow for drainage. Every motion is a muscle memory, carved by necessity. The fire takes quickly, the new wood hissing and popping. The flames reflect in your companion's eyes like small suns. You sit near it, stretching your hands to the heat. For the first time all day, you allow yourself to notice your body again, the stiffness of your fingers, the ache in your shoulders, the shallow pulse in your neck. You're still here. That's enough. Someone starts cooking a bit of mammoth fat in a shell bowl, mixing it with melted snow and dried herbs. The smell is strange but inviting. You sip it when it's passed to you, a thin soup that tastes of smoke, bone, and endurance. Outside the circle of light, the wolves return. You don't see them, but you hear them, a low collective murmur that drifts in waves across the dark. They're curious, maybe angry. You can imagine their yellow eyes watching the flicker of your fire from just beyond sight. Your hand drifts to your spear without thinking, but they don't come closer. Not tonight. The fire is strong and the camp is awake. You tilt your head back, look up at the sky. The clouds have thinned enough for you to see the faint shimmer of stars, small, scattered, unbothered by the struggles below. Historians still argue when humans first looked at those stars and began to imagine something beyond survival. Maybe it was in a night, just like this. Fire crackling, wolves circling, hunger whispering, and someone, maybe you looked up and wondered why. You sit there until your eyes ache from staring. Then slowly you lie back on your fur, letting the snowflakes melt on your face. Around you the fire hisses, the wolves sing, and the earth turns so slowly you can almost feel it under your ribs. You close your eyes and whisper to the sky, "We're still here, and for now, that's all the universe seems to need to hear." Morning returns as a pale shimmer, not a sunrise. The clouds are too thick for color, too heavy for warmth. You wake to the sound of cracking ice, a distant rhythmic boom rolling across the valley. Somewhere a river is breaking apart under its own weight. The sound is almost musical, like the planet tuning itself after a long silence. You sit up, shake frost from your fur, and blink into the dim light. Around you, your companions are stirring. The fire has died to faint embers, half buried in ash. You kneel beside it and blow gently until a thread of orange reappears. Weak but determined, you add a handful of dried moss and a sliver of wood, watching it swell into flame. The smell of smoke fills the air, home in a place that shouldn't allow homes at all. The air bites your face as you step outside. The snow here is different, thinner, harder, crusted like glass. It crunches sharply under your boots. The storm has scoured the plain clean, carving ridges and valleys overnight. Even your footprints from yesterday are gone, erased without ceremony. It's unsettling, how easily the world forgets you. You stretch and look toward the horizon. In the far distance, dark shapes move along the frozen river. At first you think it's another herd, but as you squint, you see something stranger. People, not yours. You freeze. For a moment your body doesn't know whether to feel fear or curiosity. Other humans are rare enough that you can count your encounters on one hand. Some have gone well, exchanges of meat, tools, laughter. Others, less so. You watch the distant line of figures for a long time. They're moving slow, dragging sleds like yours, their silhouettes flickering in the grey haze. Your companion joins you, shading her eyes. They're too far to tell, she murmurs. Could be us from another time. You smile faintly. It's the kind of thing people say when they don't want to tempt the cold gods with hope. Still, you keep watching. The strangers move deliberately, following the river's bend until they vanish behind a hill. The sight leaves a hollow ache in your chest, the peculiar loneliness of realizing you're not truly alone. You head back to the fire. The others are already dividing tasks. One group prepares the hides for transport. Another checks the meat supply. You take up your spear again. The ground here is strange, rumored to be rich with caves where warmth sometimes seeps through cracks in the earth. If that's true, you might find shelter that isn't made of bone and hide. You decide to scout ahead while the others finish packing. Your companion insists on joining you. Together you cross the ridge where the snow gathers deepest. The wind whistles through hollows in the ice, sounding almost like voices. You follow the sound, half expecting to find nothing. But then, you see it, a narrow opening between two ridges, half hidden by snowdrift. Warm air puffs faintly from within, smelling of earth and minerals. A geothermal vent. You exchange a glance, astonishment, disbelief, joy. You crouch and crawl inside. The tunnel leads to a small cavern, lit by the soft shimmer of ice reflecting light from the entrance. The floor is damp, not frozen. Water trickles faintly from a crack in the wall, steaming as it hits the cold air. You touch the stone. It's warm, not hot, but alive. You laugh, the sound echoing strangely. Your companion grins, eyes wide. The ground breathes, she whispers. You nod, pressing your hand flat to the wall. It feels like touching the pulse of the planet itself. You explore deeper, careful not to slip on the wet stone. The air here is humid, heavy with the scent of sulfur. You find old bones scattered near the back. Some animal, some human. Whoever came here before you must have found the same comfort, then never left. The Ice Age keeps its secrets well. Historians still argue about whether early humans used geothermal vents for survival or ritual, but standing here, warmth prickling your face, you understand why they might have done both. To find heat in a world built of ice feels like discovering magic. You sit by the water's edge for a while, letting the steam dampen your furs. For the first time in weeks, you can feel your fingers properly. The numbness fades, replaced by an almost unbearable awareness of your skin, like life rushing back after too long in darkness. You and your companion sit in silence, just breathing. No one says the obvious thing that this place could change everything. Eventually, you return to camp. The others are surprised by your smiles before you even speak. When you tell them about the vent, their expressions shift from suspicion to disbelief to hope. Real hope, the dangerous kind. Within an hour, everyone is moving, eager, energized. You lead the way, your tracks cutting a bright line through the blue snow. When you reach the cavern again, you widen the entrance with shovels and bone tools. The air that rushes out smells faintly of warmth and minerals, a breath of another season. You light a fire inside, and for the first time the flames don't fight to survive, they flourish. The heat lingers, bounces off the walls, fills the space. The group sits together in the glow, coats open, hands bare. Laughter breaks out, quiet at first, then louder. The walls drip slowly as the ice above begins to melt. Drops fall onto your face like blessings. You lie back against the rock, feeling the warmth soak through your clothes, and close your eyes. For a moment you imagine the entire world thawing with you. The rivers running, the grass returning, the mammoths wandering under a kinder sun. You know it's a dream, but in this place, even dreams feel solid. The others talk softly in the background. Someone begins to hum an old tune, low and rhythmic. You can't remember the words, if there ever were any, but the melody sounds like firewood if it could sing. Historians might never find this place. The vent will collapse one day, the bones will scatter, the snow will bury every trace. But tonight, under the earth's gentle breath, you know that for one fleeting moment, the Ice Age softened. The world briefly forgave you. The next morning, the air feels different, softer somehow, as if the entire world is exhaling after holding its breath for 1,000 years. When you step out of the vent's mouth, your eyelashes no longer freeze shut in seconds. The wind still carries knives, but they're duller now, more like warnings than attacks. You can feel the faintest warmth brushing your cheekbones. It's barely there, a ghost of temperature, but it's real. The sky for once is blue, not the dull steel grey you've grown used to, but a cold, clean sapphire stretching endlessly overhead. You stand there blinking, overwhelmed. Your companion joins you, shielding her eyes. The air smells different, she murmurs. She's right, it smells wet, like thawing ice and hidden earth. The group emerges slowly behind you, blinking into the brightness. Even the children are quiet. One of the elders kneels, scooping up a handful of snow. It melts in her palm almost instantly. A droplet rolls off her wrist and darkens the ground. Everyone stares at it as though it were gold. Historians still argue whether Ice Age people noticed the beginning of the Great Thaw or simply adapted without words for it. But standing here, you can feel history turning under your feet. The planet is shifting. Something vast and invisible is changing its mind about you. You spend the morning gathering supplies, but the urgency is gone. For once, survival doesn't feel like a race. It feels like a choice. The mammoth meat you cached is still frozen solid under the snow, safe and untouched. The fire burns brighter, lazier. You sit near it with your back against the warm stone of the vent and let the heat soak through your bones. Your companion is beside you, cleaning her spear. The flint tip glints in the sun. "Do you think it will last?" she asks softly. You shrug. "Does anything?" She laughs, but there's a tremor in it. Hope is heavy. It takes muscle to carry it. In the afternoon, you climb the ridge behind the camp to look at the world. What you see makes your breath catch. The ice plain that once seemed endless is breaking apart. Cracks run like veins through the surface, glinting with meltwater. Far in the distance, you can see black soil peeking through the snow, wet, alive, impossible. You kneel, letting your glove fall into the slush. When you touch the ground, it's soft. You press your palm flat, feeling moisture seep into the seams of your skin. It's a small, filthy miracle. You laugh quietly, the sound strange against the emptiness. Below, the others have noticed too. A shout goes up, a sound you haven't heard in months. Joy, they run or at least stumble toward the nearest dark patch, dropping to their knees and touching it like pilgrims. Someone begins to sing. The melody drifts upward toward you, carried by the thawing wind. It's not a song of triumph, but of relief. You stay on the ridge, watching them. You can't help but think how fragile this all is. A few degrees of warmth, a slightly longer sun, and the world feels merciful again. It makes you wonder if this is what the future will always be. An endless pattern of freezing and melting, of losing and finding, of enduring and forgetting. Still, you're grateful for the pause. You descend back to camp as the light softens into late afternoon. The air smells faintly of wet moss. For the first time, you spot insects crawling across the surface of the snow, tiny black dots moving sluggishly, confused by their own survival. You crouch to watch them, fascinated. The first heralds of spring, even if they don't know it. Back at camp, the fire is roaring. The hunters are roasting strips of meat on long sticks. Fat drips and hisses into the flames, releasing bursts of smoke that taste like salt and sweetness at once. The children chase each other between the shelters, their laughter cutting through the hum of the wind. You sit down beside the fire, holding your hands out. The heat feels different now, less like defense, more like comfort. The shadows flicker across your face, soft and forgiving. Someone passes you a piece of cooked meat, glistening with grease. You bite into it. The flavor rich and deep. For the first time, it doesn't taste like necessity. It tastes like living. As evening falls, you walk a little way from camp. The snow crunches underfoot, and each breath fogs the air in faint silver curls. You stop near the edge of the vent and look up. The clouds have cleared completely. The stars are brutal in their clarity, sharp as flint. The Milky Way spills across the sky like powdered frost. You think of the mammoth bones buried under snow, the wolves still prowling somewhere beyond sight, the countless others who will walk this same path long after you're gone. You realize that your footprints, even if they vanish by morning, still mean something. They are part of the pattern, the quiet rhythm of persistence. Historians will someday call this a transition, the end of one world, the beginning of another. But you don't have those words. All you have is breath, warmth, and the sound of dripping water nearby. That's enough. You return to camp as the fire dims, slip under your hide blanket, and feel the slow pulse of the earth beneath you. The cold presses close, but not cruelly this time, as if testing your strength before letting you rest. You close your eyes and whisper a promise to the darkness. You will remember this warmth when it leaves. Because it will. It always does. But tonight, you belong to it completely. The warmth of the vent holds through the night like a secret hearth. You wake before dawn and find the cavern glowing faintly with its own light, reflected fire, dripping water, and the pale shimmer of ice sheets slowly melting from the ceiling. The air is heavy with a new smell, damp earth. After so many months of cold and smoke and fat, it smells almost like a story from another world. You stretch, every joint creaking, and listen to the sounds of the camp. People breathing, a child murmuring in its sleep, the faint pop of the fire. Outside, the world is still dark, but it's a softer darkness now, as if the ice age has exhaled some of its weight. You crawl toward the entrance and push aside the flap of hide. A thin mist drifts across the plain. The snow looks bruised, blue and grey, with streaks of black where the earth has begun to peek through. In the distance, a herd of small, dark shapes moves slowly, heads down, reindeer again. This time closer. This time, perhaps, a gift. Your companion steps out behind you, yawning. Looks different today, she whispers. You nod. The air itself feels fragile, like glass that might shatter into summer at any moment. You go back inside and begin packing. Not for a move, for a hunt. The group is still weak from days of labor and storms. Even with the mammoth meat, fresh food matters. You gather spears, flint knives, and a bundle of green sticks to lash into a quick frame if you need to drag a kill back. The others stir as they see your preparations. No words are needed. They rise slowly, stretch, and begin to arm themselves. Historians still argue whether early humans hunted out of habit or necessity at this cusp of climate change. But you feel both. You're restless. The thaw doesn't erase hunger. It only changes its edges. The group moves out in a silent line, breath fogging in the thin air. The ground is treacherous. Snow hiding patches of slush, ice hiding cracks, deep enough to swallow a foot or a thought. You test each step before putting weight on it. Your companion walks just ahead, spear balanced lightly in her hand. After an hour, you crest a low ridge and see them, the reindeer. Maybe 30 of them, clustered near a patch of moss exposed by the melt. Their antlers gleam like polished driftwood, tipped with frost. Steam rises from their nostrils. They're wary but not yet alarmed. You signal the others, and they fan out, silent as falling snow. The plan is simple. Drive them toward a shallow dip between two ridges where the ground is still solid ice. If you're quick, one will stumble and you'll have your kill. The wind picks up just as you're creeping forward. It carries your scent to the herd. One lifts its head, ears twitching. Another follows. In an instant, the animals are tense, muscles bunched under their hides. You hold your breath. Then, movement. The lead reindeer bolts and the others follow. A ripple of panic across the white. You leap to your feet and sprint, boots crunching on the snow, heart hammering. Your breath rips out of your throat in silver ribbons. You and your companion push from opposite sides, steering the herd toward the dip. Two younger hunters wave branches, shouting low guttural noises. The reindeer hesitate, veer, then plunge forward into the narrow space. One slips on a patch of hidden ice. Its legs splay awkwardly. It struggles to rise but can't. You close the distance, spear poised. For a second, the world slows. The animal's dark eye meets yours, wild, terrified, alive. You thrust quickly, cleanly. The spear strikes true. The reindeer jerks once, then lies still. Steam rises from its wound, curling into the cold air like incense. You kneel beside it, chest heaving. Your companions arrive, panting, faces flushed. No one cheers. Instead, they set to work immediately, tying the animal's legs for dragging. Your companion presses a hand to its side, murmuring something under her breath. You do the same. It's not ritual, exactly. It's just the only language you have for gratitude. The sky above is clearing. Patches of blue appear, deep and sharp. You glance around, scanning for wolves, but see nothing. The world feels watchful, but, for now, indifferent. You and the others drag the reindeer back toward camp. It's lighter than the mammoth, but still heavy. The rope bites your palms. The cold gnaws at your joints. Yet you feel a flicker of something unfamiliar. As you move, not triumph, not even relief, anticipation. Historians might someday call this feeling security, but you don't have a word for it. All you know is that for the first time in memory, you're walking toward a fire and a future that feel bigger than a single night. When you reach the vent, the fire inside is roaring. The smell of cooked meat still hangs in the air from the previous night. You pull the reindeer's body into the cavern, and the sudden shift from cold wind to warm, damp air makes your head spin. It's like stepping through time, winter outside, some ghost of spring within. You drop the ropes and sit down hard, hands trembling. Your companion sits beside you, wiping sweat from her brow. For a long moment, you both just breathe. The cavern walls glisten with condensation. Droplets patter softly on the stone floor like distant rain. Someone lights a second fire, and soon the cavern is filled with golden light. Shadows stretch high on the walls, turning every movement into a kind of dance. The reindeer's steam mixes with the warmth of the vent, curling upward in delicate shapes. You close your eyes and listen to the sounds, crackling fire, dripping water, the soft voices of your people. It's not silence anymore, it's life. You realize you've stopped shivering. Your fingers still ache, but not from cold, from work. You're warm enough to remove your hood, to feel air on your skin. You lean back against the stone and let the heat seep into your bones. Outside, the ice age still rages. The wolves still circle. But inside this cavern, you've built a small pocket of defiance, a warm heartbeat in a frozen world. For the first time, you dare to believe it might last. You sleep deeply that night, wrapped in furs, belly full, the sound of the vent's breath, a soft, endless lullaby. When you wake, it takes a moment to remember where you are. For once, you are not cold. The air against your face is mild, damp, almost tender. You turn over and listen to the faint dripping of meltwater falling into a small pool near the fire, a rhythm like a heartbeat. The others are stirring slowly, unhurried. There's no storm pressing down today, no urgent need to flee or hunt. The reindeer meat hangs on racks of bent wood, drying in the warm air. The hides stretch along the walls, taut and glistening. The cavern feels like something new, a home, not a shelter. You roll the word around in your mind, though you don't yet have one for it. You rise, stretch, and step outside. The light that greets you is golden. The sky glows with a color you'd nearly forgotten. Sunlight unfiltered by blizzard or smoke. It feels too rich, too luxurious. The snow has softened. Your boots sink in a few inches instead of skating across the surface. Steam rises where the sun touches dark stone. You walk a short way up the ridge. The horizon stretches far and empty, but not lifeless. You can see dark lines of migrating birds tracing the sky, their wings catching the light like shards of glass. Far off, small shapes move through the thawing tundra, herds shifting north with the season's slow turn. The world, you realize, is waking up. Historians still argue about when human beings first recognized the rhythm of seasons, the turning of time as something cyclical rather than endless. But standing here, you feel it in your bones. You can sense the planet stirring beneath you, shaking off its long frozen dream. You kneel and press your hand to the slush at your feet. It's soft, pliable. Beneath it, you feel the faint squirm of life, something tiny moving through the mud. A beetle, maybe, or a worm. You laugh quietly to yourself. Even the smallest things are starting over. Back at camp, the fire crackles brightly. Your companion is feeding it small bones, using the ash to tan hides. She smiles when she sees you. You were gone long, she says. You shrug, handing her a handful of wet earth, as if it were treasure. She touches it, then looks at you in disbelief. It's warm, she whispers. You sit beside her, the two of you watching the smoke coil upward into the cavern's roof. The others are busy with their own small miracles, sewing torn hides, shaping new spear tips, boiling marrow into glue. The hum of quiet work fills the air. It's not the frantic rhythm of survival anymore, but something gentler, more deliberate. You find yourself thinking about the people who will come after you, the ones who will find bones and charcoal, wondering who left them here. Maybe they'll build on these ashes. Maybe they'll find their own caverns of warmth. You smile at the thought of it, strangers you'll never meet, carrying echoes of your breath in their lungs. Later, as the sun begins to fall, you wander outside again. The light has changed, slanting low and honey-colored. The snow glows pink around the edges, and the wind smells faintly of moss and melting ice. You follow the stream of water that now trickles from the vent, winding through the drifts like a silver ribbon. Where it pools, you can see reflections of sky, perfect and still. You crouch by the edge, dipping your fingers into the meltwater. It's cold but not biting. You cup your hands and drink. It tastes of stone and air and something else. Time, maybe. The flavor of beginnings. You wash your face in it, gasping as it drips down your neck, and laugh out loud. The sound startles a bird from a nearby bush. It flutters upward in a burst of feathers and disappears into the open sky. Your companion joins you, kneeling beside the pool. "It's beautiful," she says softly. You nod. Neither of you have seen this much color in so long that it almost hurts. The two of you sit there for a while, watching the water ripple. Back at camp, as dusk settles, the air cools again, but not cruelly. The group gathers around the fire for another meal. Someone tells a story about a hunter who followed a bear into the mountains and came back with its shadow stitched into his coat. Another hums a low song that sounds older than speech itself. You can't help but notice how laughter sounds different now. Fuller, warmer, no longer echoing against fear. You sit with your back to the wall, the rock still faintly warm against your spine. The firelight dances on the faces around you, turning them soft and alive. You watch the shadows flicker and think of how far you've come, from a hut of bones on a wind-scoured plain to this glowing cave where the air itself feels kind. Historians will say people survived because they adapted, because they learned to build, to plan, to think ahead. But you know it's simpler than that. You survived because you refused not to, because you believed in tomorrow even when the sky said otherwise. You lean your head back and close your eyes. The fire's crackle blends with the dripping water, with the slow breathing of those around you. The Ice Age may still rage beyond these walls, but here, for now, you are safe. You are warm. And in the great frozen silence of history, that is everything. You wake to the sound of wind again. But it's not the scream you remember. It's softer now, almost musical, curling through the rocks and around the cavern's entrance like a sigh. The air carries a strange scent, wet soil, thawed moss, the faint sweetness of decay, life returning to the world one quiet rot at a time. You sit up slowly, rubbing sleep from your eyes. A sliver of sunlight cuts through the cave's mouth, bright and gold. It lands on the wall across from you, glowing like a torch. Dust motes drift lazily through it, catching in the warm air. You watch them move, slow and aimless, like thoughts with nowhere to go. Outside, the snow is breaking apart. Where once there were drifts taller than a man, there are now veins of dark earth winding through the white like roots. Pools of water gather in hollows, reflecting the sky. The sound of dripping and trickling fills the air, water constant and alive. After so many months of silence, it feels impossibly loud. You step outside barefoot, just to feel it. The snow stings at first, but underneath it, beneath the crusted ice, the earth is soft. Mud squelches between your toes. You laugh out loud, a sharp, almost hysterical sound that startles the others. They peek out of the vent, blinking against the brightness. Your companion joins you, squinting at the horizon. It's melting fast, she says quietly. You nod. The thaw has a hunger of its own. The river, once frozen solid, is now cracking open in long, jagged lines, spilling dark water that hisses and steams in the cold air. You can hear it running beneath the ice. Impatient, the others follow, one by one, standing in the sunlight like people stepping into a dream. The children squeal and chase each other, slipping in the slush. Their laughter carries across the plain. You've heard that sound before, but never like this. Not echoing, not muffled. It's the sound of the world waking up. You look north, where the glaciers still loom, tall, ancient, silent. Their faces glisten under the new sun. For all their strength, even they are retreating now, shrinking inch by inch. You can almost feel the earth moving under your feet, stretching after a long, cold sleep. Historians still debate whether humans celebrated the first thaw or feared it. The truth is probably both. The cold had rules, you knew how to obey them. Warmth is unpredictable. It breeds floods, storms, life, danger. You stand there, staring at the horizon, and feel that same unease coiling under your ribs. Change is survival, but it's also loss. Back inside the vent, the air feels too hot now. The fires smoke more quickly. The fat spoils faster. The comfort of the cavern begins to suffocate. You realize what the world is whispering. It's time to move again. You gather your people around the fire that night. Shadows flicker across the walls like memories. You explain with few words the thaw will flood the valley soon. You must follow the herds north, as they always have. The others listen quietly. No one argues. They know that rest is a temporary illusion. Your companion catches your eye, her face unreadable in the glow. "We only just found warmth," she says softly. You nod. That's it, how it goes. The moment you find it, it sits already leaving. You spend the next day preparing. The hides are packed, tools lashed together, meat wrapped in bark and snow to preserve it for the road. The sleds slide easier now over the melting ground, the runners slick with mud. You take one last look around the cavern, the walls still glistening with condensation, the floor littered with ash and bone. It looks almost like a heart, pulsing faintly in the dim light. You touch the stone and whisper a quiet thanks. When you emerge, the world is transformed. The sun hangs higher now, a pale coin swimming in mist. The air is thick with fog, heavy with the smell of thaw. Birds cry overhead, sharp, strange voices that echo across the plain. The snow crunches wetly under your boots. Every step leaves a dark print that quickly fills with water. You and the others begin the climb out of the valley. The sound of the melting river follows you, constant and wild. At the ridge, you stop to catch your breath and look back. The cavern's entrance glows faintly in the mist, like an ember dying in snow. Beyond it, the valley spreads wide, half white, half green, a world in transition. For a moment, you feel an ache so deep it almost bends you. This place saved you. It gave you fire, warmth, laughter. You want to stay, but the Ice Age taught you one thing above all else. Survival means moving toward the unknown. You turn north and begin walking. The mud clings to your boots, heavy but warm. The wind at your back carries the scent of water and soil. The cold doesn't bite anymore, it brushes. Your fur coat feels too thick. The others follow in silence, the sound of your sleds and footsteps merging into a single rhythm. As you walk, the sunlight grows stronger. It hits the snow and scatters into 1,000 points of light. The air glows. The world is no longer white or grey, but full of colours you don't yet have names for. Blue, brown, green, gold. They flicker together like a new language forming. Historians will someday mark this moment as the beginning of everything. Agriculture, villages, memory, but you don't think in centuries. You only know that you are walking on soft ground, that water is flowing freely again, and that your people are alive. At the top of the ridge you pause. Behind you the glacier gleams ahead. The land rolls endlessly, dotted with the dark humps of herds migrating north. You plant your spear in the mud and rest your hand on it. Remember this. You whisper to the wind, the day the world began to forgive us. Then you lift your pack, take one more breath of thawing air, and keep walking. By the time the next dawn arrives, you're already far from the cavern. The world behind you glows faintly in the mist, swallowed slowly by distance and memory. Ahead lies a valley you've never seen before. Its slopes wet and shining, the snow thinning in patchy veins, rivers cutting through it like open arteries. The air feels alive with the smell of meltwater and mud. Each step you take sinks softly into the earth, leaving dark footprints that steam faintly in the cold light. You pause at the ridge to breathe it in. The air tastes different now, less of ice, more of soil, as if the world itself is beginning to exhale warmth again. You can feel the faint pull of the sun on your skin. Your people gather around you, faces pale but bright, eyes squinting in the unfamiliar light. The wind that blows across the plain carries not the scream of winter but a whisper of life. Birds, insects, the sigh of thawing grass somewhere beneath the surface. You lead them down the slope. The snow is soft, easy to part. Beneath it, green shoots poke timidly through the mud, trembling in the wind. You stop, crouch, and brush away the slush. The color shocks you, green so vivid it almost hurts your eyes. You laugh aloud, startled by the sound of your own voice. It's growing, you murmur, though the others already see it. Your companion kneels beside you, touching the grass. It smells alive, she says, smiling in disbelief. Her gloved fingers tremble slightly as she pinches one of the blades and lifts it to her face. She closes her eyes. I stepped forgotten. You both stand there for a while, letting the wind wrap around you. There's no rush to move on. For once, there's no predator chasing, no storm pressing, no hunger gnawing. You can simply be. Historians will someday write about this epoch as a transition. How the glaciers withdrew, and humans followed the retreating ice north, chasing herds and warmth in equal measure. But if they could stand here, they would know this was not merely migration. It was resurrection. The path ahead leads to rolling hills dark with thawing moss and lichen. In the distance, you spot a stand of thin, leafless trees, small but alive. Birds flit between them, black specks against the brightening sky. You can hear their calls now, short, sharp notes that pierce the air like questions. The group walks slower today. The elders lean on their spears. The children lag behind, stopping to scoop wet snow and throw it playfully. Their laughter ripples through the valley, strange and beautiful. It's been so long since you heard joy that you almost don't recognize it. You reach the trees by midday. Their bark peels away in ribbons, damp and fragrant. You touch one, half expecting it to crumble. Instead, it holds firm. Beneath your hand, you feel sap rising, life warm and persistent, pushing upward through frozen roots. You smile, awed and small. The others gather fallen branches and start a new fire. This one smokes heavily. The wood is green and wet, but no one cares. The smoke spirals upward, curling against the white blue sky like an offering. The scent is wild and sweet. You sit beside it, feeling its warmth soak into your bones. You unpack a strip of dried meat from your pack and share it with your companion. The taste is bitter, but you eat slowly, thoughtfully. Around you, the snow drips from the trees in soft, steady rhythms. Each drop falls like the tick of a clock that only now remembers how to move forward. You tilt your head back and watch the sky. The sun is higher now, a pale gold disk hovering like a promise. For months it was something distant and cruel. Now it feels close enough to believe in. You stretch out your hand and imagine catching it, holding the light in your palm just long enough to see its shape. The others begin to hum again, a low, steady tune, something between song and breathing. You close your eyes and let it wash over you. It's the sound of survival, of a story older than words. The fire crackles. The thaw continues. Water trickles nearby, whispering its way downhill toward rivers that will soon overflow. You listen to that sound and realize it's the new heartbeat of the world. Historians will someday call this the end of the Ice Age. But for you, it's not an ending. It's the beginning of warmth, the beginning of time as people will one day understand it. You smile faintly. The cold will come again, someday it always does. But for now you are allowed this moment. You lie down on the damp earth, letting it cradle your weight. The sky overhead blurs with light, and your breath rises in small vanishing clouds. Your companion lies beside you, both of you staring upward, saying nothing. There's no need. The silence is no longer empty. You feel your heartbeat slow. The sun's warmth seeps through your furs, through your skin, down to the bone. The world hums quietly around you, alive again, unfreezing one sound at a time. You close your eyes and let it fade into stillness. The fires whisper, the drip of melting snow, the faint pulse of your own blood. The Ice Age is ending. And you, small, stubborn, shivering thing that you are, have lived to see the first spring. The fire burns low, reduced now to a soft red glow. The others are already asleep, curled like question marks under their hides. Outside, the thawing world murmurs. A soft rush of distant water, a faint crack as ice loosens its grip on stone. You lie still, listening. Every sound feels gentler tonight, as though the earth itself has learned to whisper again. You breathe in deeply. The air smells of ash and soil, of something green and faintly sweet. You close your eyes and imagine the mammoth herds moving farther north, their heavy footsteps fading into distance. You picture the rivers widening, carrying the last shards of winter away. The world is shedding its armor, slowly, beautifully. The warmth from the fire spreads through your chest. You feel it pulse in your fingertips, in your legs, in your breath. For so long, every heartbeat was a question, would there be another? Now each one feels like an answer. You let your thoughts drift to the hunts, the storms, the laughter by the vent, the first drip of melting ice. They float past gently, like embers in a breeze. You think of the green blades pushing through the slush this morning. Fragile but certain. You think of your people sleeping safely, of tomorrow's sun rising just a little higher. Soon, the wind will quiet completely. The cold will ease, the world will soften. You will dream of warmth, of rivers, of a future where the earth is gentle again. And when you wake, the light will be different. The frost will shimmer gold instead of blue. The air will hum low and kind. You have survived the winter. You have lived to feel the first warmth. Sleep now. The world remembers you.